I was elbow deep in a diaper bag, trying to find a spare pacifier while juggling a wailing infant on my shoulder, when I noticed Sierra's purse sitting on the kitchen counter. My keys weren't where I usually left them, and I figured maybe she'd scooped them up by mistake earlier in the day. So I slid the purse open, one-handed, trying not to jostle the baby too much. That's when I saw it, a cheap plastic MOTEL keychain wedged between her lip gloss and a pack of gum. Bright blue, with blocky white letters, Ocean View in room 214. I blinked at it, confused. Ocean View Inn wasn't a name I recognized. It definitely wasn't near our house in Glendale. Not near the spa upstate where she said she'd gone last weekend for her girls' trip either. And not close to her work, her mom's place, or anything else I could think of. I turned the keychain over. It had that weird stickiness old plastic gets, like it had been gripped too tight by someone nervous. My pulse kicked up a notch. Hey, babe. I called toward the bathroom. You seen my car keys? Sierra was still in the shower. Check the diaper bag, she yelled back, her voice muffled through the steam. I had them earlier. I waited, trying to focus on calming down the baby, but my eyes kept going back to that keychain. When she finally came out in her robe, hair dripping, she saw the look on my face and tilted her head. What's wrong? I held up the motel key. You want to explain this? She froze for half a second, then smiled away too quickly. Oh my God, that's just from last weekend. Me and the girls passed it on our way to the spa. We thought it was hilarious, total murder movie vibes. I grabbed a keychain for fun. A keychain? From a motel you didn't stay at? I asked, careful not to sound accusatory yet. Why would they give you one? She laughed, drying her hair with a towel. They were on a key rack in the lobby. Like, for tourists or something. God, you're so suspicious. I didn't laugh. This place is 2 hours in the opposite direction from the spa you said you went to. She paused, her face tightening for just a second before she covered it with a smirk. Okay, well maybe it wasn't exactly on the way. We kind of detoured. Amanda had to pee, and we stopped at some dive bar nearby. You know how girls' trips are. I looked at her. Really looked. The way her voice had a sharp edge under the lightness. The way she couldn't meet my eyes for more than a few seconds. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the guy who shrugged this off, who didn't go digging. But something about her, something about how fast that excuse came, how rehearsed it felt, it just didn't sit right. The baby started fussing again. I rocked him slowly, still watching Sierra, still holding that keychain in my hand like it was radioactive. Just weird, that's all, I muttered, setting it on the counter. She leaned in and kissed my cheek. Stop being paranoid, she whispered, too gently. But I wasn't paranoid. I was paying attention. And that keychain was going to stick in my mind for a long time. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the whole thing in my head, how casually she brushed it off, how fast that story came to her lips. I wanted to drop it. God knows, we were both exhausted with the baby. But I couldn't. The next morning, while she was making coffee, I brought it up again. So, about that keychain. Sierra sighed, loud enough to make a point. Devin, seriously, it doesn't add up. The spa you told me about is up in Ojai. That motel is in Redondo Beach. That's 2 hours the other way. She didn't even turn around. We took the scenic route. Big deal. But you told me Amanda booked everything. That you guys stayed in a cabin. You said there was no driving around once you got there. Now she turned. Her face was tight. Okay, fine. It wasn't from that trip. I stared at her. So where was it from? She ran a hand through her hair and gave this dry little laugh. God, you're really gonna interrogate me over a keychain? I'm asking a question. That's not interrogating. Sierra folded her arms. It was a joke. A gag gift from Bree. She gave it to me months ago after some dumb bachelorette thing. I just threw it in my purse. That's not what you said yesterday. Well, I didn't think it mattered. I felt the blood rise in my cheeks. Which is it? You picked it up on your girl's trip, or Bree gave it to you months ago? She rolled her eyes. Jesus, Devin. I don't know. Maybe it was from a friend. Maybe I picked it up. What difference does it make? It's a stupid piece of plastic. I leaned on the counter, hands flat. It makes a difference because you keep changing your story. And you're acting like I cheated on you. She snapped, eyes flashing. Over a keychain. A fucking keychain. I didn't say you cheated, I said quietly. But I'm not stupid, Sierra. She went silent for a moment, then dropped into a chair and let out a shaky breath. You know what your problem is, she said, calmer now. You're tired. You've been doing everything with the baby, and I appreciate that. I do. But you haven't slept. You're stressed. You're looking for reasons to be mad at me. I opened my mouth, but she held up a hand. Just listen. I've been going through it too, Devin. You think postpartum is some walk in the park? I'm stuck in this house all day while you play detective with a motel keychain. That's not what I'm doing. Yes, it is, she said. You want to find something wrong. You want to catch me in something, because then you get to feel in control. Her voice cracked a little. But I'm not cheating on you, Devin. I'm just lost. I feel like I can't breathe sometimes. Like this whole mom thing is swallowing me. I stared at her. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were glassy. She looked small. And for a second, I questioned everything. Was I being too harsh? Was I just tired, like she said? Was this all in my head? I reached for her hand, and she let me take it. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't mean to make you feel attacked. She nodded, wiping at her eye. I know. But as I walked away to check on the baby, something still felt off. That sadness in her voice? Real. The shaking? Real. But the story behind the keychain? Still fake. That night, after Sierra fell asleep, I sat in the living room in the dark with just the baby monitor humming next to me. My son's breathing came through soft and steady, but mine wasn't. My chest was tight, my head spinning. I kept thinking about how we even got here. Back when I first met Sierra, she was 21 and wild in a way I wasn't. She worked part-time at a juice bar, spent the rest of her days tanning and posting selfies with long captions about manifesting abundance and living in the moment. I was working a full-time job at a shipping yard, still living with my cousin, scraping together enough to someday get out. I thought she was electric, unbothered, untouchable. We'd go out, and she'd dance with everyone and anyone, laughing like she owned the room. I was the guy in the corner holding her purse, watching her twirl. Even then, there were signs. She'd cancel dates at the last second. She'd lose her wallet at restaurants and tell me, "You got this, right?" She never introduced me to her friends. They were always some vibe I wouldn't get. But I didn't care. I kept showing up. I remember one night, early on, I asked her what she wanted to do in 5 years. She blinked at me and said, "I don't know. Just be happy." It should have worried me, but I took it as mysterious, free-spirited. I told myself I could ground her, help her find direction. When she got pregnant, her first reaction wasn't joy. It was silence. For 2 days, she barely spoke to me. "I can't do this right now," she finally said. But I didn't give up. I told her we'd figure it out. I'd take care of things. I'd step up. And I did. I took on extra hours. I found a cheaper apartment. I stopped drinking on weekends and bought prenatal vitamins. She said she'd try to get serious, that she'd grow into it. But after the baby came, it was like she snapped back into her old self the second she got the green light to exercise. Just one night out, she said. Then one turned into 2. Then 3. I stayed home with bottles and burp cloths while she posted boomerangs at rooftop bars, tagging her mom squad. I never told her to stop. I figured maybe she was depressed. Maybe this was how she coped. But the more I gave, the more she took. She slept in while I handled morning feedings. She forgot to pay the power bill, but always had her nails done. Every time I brought it up, she'd get teary or sarcastic or both. "Oh, sorry I'm not perfect like you, Devin." And I'd back off. Again and again. Sitting there on the couch, the baby monitor glowing beside me, I finally saw it for what it was. She hadn't just drifted into this life. She had been dragged here by me. I was the one who kept convincing her it would all work out, that we could build a family from uneven pieces. Now she had a roof over her head, a baby she only parented part-time, and a husband who handled everything. She didn't want to grow up. She just wanted to get away with not growing up. And maybe that motel key was the price of her freedom. Maybe I'd handed her the change. The next morning, after Sierra left to run errands, I opened Instagram. Not mine, hers. She'd left her phone on the coffee table while grabbing the stroller, and I knew her passcode. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. I didn't find anything obvious. No DMs, no flirty comments from guys. But her friend Cassidy had posted a reel last week from a club in Santa Monica. Sierra was in the background, hair up, laughing, wearing a dress I hadn't seen before. That was the same weekend she claimed to be at a spa retreat. I checked who'd liked the post. A bunch of party girls I didn't know. But one name stood out, Keith Saunders. I clicked through to his profile. It was mostly shirtless selfies, gym shots, nightclub tags, and quotes like, "You only live once." Make it messy. Charming. I dug a little deeper. In a photo from about 2 weeks ago, Sierra was in the comments with a fire emoji. He replied with a wink. There it was. Not proof, not yet, but enough to keep digging. On Keith's page, someone had tagged him at a bar called Bluebird Lounge, walking distance from the Ocean View Inn. I checked the date. Same weekend. That was enough for me. I waited a few hours, played it normal. Diaper duty, bottles, even watched a reality show with her like nothing was wrong. Then, right before dinner, I casually brought up the keychain again. "Hey, remember that key from the other day? The motel one?" She tensed up just slightly. "Yeah, what about it?" "I've been thinking. Maybe your friend's the one who was staying there, right? You mentioned it might have been her little hookup." Sierra blinked. "Right, yeah, that's what I said. You never told me which friend it was." She hesitated. "Cassidy." I nodded slowly. Was it her first time meeting the guy? She laughed, too loud. "Oh, no. They've been talking for a while. He lives near there, I think." I think his name was, Kyle. Kyle. Keith. Right, Kyle? Makes sense. I gave a small smile. Funny. I think I saw him comment on one of your photos recently. Her eyes flicked up. Did you go through my page? I mean, it's public. Just happened to notice. No big deal. Sierra shrugged. He's just friendly. You know how guys on Instagram are. I nodded again, watching her closely. Yeah, harmless. So, Cassidy and Kyle, huh? You think they'll last? Sierra scoffed. God, no. It was a fling. She's already over it. And there it was. The motel affair she swore she knew nothing about was now a detailed story. A name, a personality, a narrative she just made up on the spot. And it didn't match the version from yesterday, or the one before that. I didn't call her out yet. I just nodded and let her keep talking. She was digging her own grave, and I was getting ready to hand her the shovel. That night, when Sierra finally crashed on the couch beside me, I waited until I heard her breathing slow and steady. Then I grabbed my laptop, slipped into the nursery, and sat cross-legged on the floor next to the crib. My son stirred once but stayed asleep. The soft sound of his mobile filled the silence while I typed. I found Keith's girlfriend on his Instagram page. Her name was Jenna. Her profile was private, but one of the tagged photos showed them together, captioned, 3 years and still can't keep my hands off you. That was from 2 months ago. I created a new Instagram account using a throwaway email. Generic name, no photo. Then I messaged her. Me. Hey, sorry if this is weird. I don't know you, but I think you deserve to know something. I'm messaging you as a neutral third party. It's about Keith. She saw it within 15 minutes. Jenna, okay. What about him? I hesitated, then wrote. Me, he's been involved with someone I know. Her name is Sierra. She's married and has a child. I didn't want to get involved, but I thought you should hear it from someone before you hear it the wrong way. 10 minutes of silence. Then a message popped up. Jenna, wow. I already broke up with him last week. Found messages between him and some girl named Sierra. She told him she was separated and living with her brother. I had no idea she was married. I stared at the screen. That line hit harder than it should have. Separated. Living with her brother. That wasn't just cheating. That was planning for a life without me. Me. I'm really sorry. You didn't deserve that. Jenna, neither did you. Thanks for telling me. She didn't ask who I was. She didn't need to. I think she knew. I closed the laptop and just sat there for a while, watching my son sleep. Sierra wasn't just reckless. She was careless, selfish, dangerous, even, bringing this Keith guy into her life, lying to everyone involved, including herself. And now I had what I needed. Not just a gut feeling, not just digital breadcrumbs, but real confirmation from someone else who'd been burned by the same fire. The thing about Sierra was she never thought long-term. She lived in the moment, lied in the moment, thought every story would fade by morning. But this one wouldn't. I was done being gaslit, done second-guessing myself. It was time to put the truth on display, not just for her, but for everyone she thought she was smarter than. I told Sierra I wanted to have a little get-together. Something chill. A way to reconnect with people we hadn't seen in a while since the baby came. She lit up at the idea, finally, something fun, in her words. I texted 2 of her closest friends, Jess and Liana. I told them I needed their help planning a surprise for Sierra. Something sentimental, I wrote. They loved that idea. I also messaged Jenna, Keith's now ex, asking if she'd be willing to come. Told her the whole truth, even about the baby. To my surprise, she didn't hesitate. She deserves to be exposed, Jenna said. The following Saturday, I cleaned the living room, made snacks, even lit a candle Sierra liked that smelled like toasted marshmallow. She was getting her nails done when I set everything up. It gave me just enough time. When Jess and Liana arrived, they were all smiles and wine. I told them we'd wait to start the surprise until Sierra got home. Then Jenna showed up. They didn't recognize her, not at first. I offered drinks, small talk. Everyone assumed she was a friend of mine from work. Sierra came in a little after 6, purse slung over her shoulder, hair still damp from the salon. Her smile froze as soon as she saw Jenna sitting on the couch. What's she doing here? She asked, voice low, eyes locked on mine. Jess and Liana glanced at each other. I think it's time we talk, I said, standing up. I pulled the small Bluetooth speaker from under the coffee table and pressed play. Sierra's voice came through loud and clear. So, Cassidy and Kyle, huh? You think they'll last? God, no. It was a fling. She's already over it. I paused the clip. Jess frowned. Wait. Cassidy's dating a guy named Kyle. She isn't, I said. There's no Kyle. There's Keith. Keith Saunders. I turned to Jenna, who gave Sierra a cold nod. Hi. I'm Keith's girlfriend. Or I was, until I found out he's been seeing your wife. Silence. Liana's mouth dropped open. Sierra's face flushed deep red. This is insane. You're all ganging up on me. I gave you chances, I said quietly. Every time you lied, I gave you a way out. You just kept digging. Sierra folded her arms. This is pathetic. You're spying on me? Luring my friends over here like it's a courtroom. No, Sierra. This is just the truth, finally out in the open. Jess leaned forward. Wait, is this real? You cheated on Devin. Sierra's eyes darted from face to face. It wasn't like that. Keith, he told me he was single. I didn't. Jenna cut in. You told him you were separated and living with your brother. Sierra swallowed hard. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was doing. I was drowning, okay? No, I said. You weren't drowning. You were escaping. And now you're caught. Her shoulders slumped. Her voice broke. Please don't do this. Don't make me into some villain. I made a mistake, but you're trying to ruin my life. Jess looked sick. Liana just shook her head. You ruined your life? I said. I'm just done covering for you. Tears welled in Sierra's eyes. What about my reputation? What are people going to think? I stared at her for a long moment. Maybe they'll finally see who you really are. She dropped into the armchair, hands over her face, sobbing. No one rushed to comfort her. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like the crazy one. I felt like someone who finally had the facts on his side. Sierra moved out 2 days later. She didn't pack much. Just a duffel bag, a few toiletries, and some clothes. Her cousin from Long Beach came to pick her up. They didn't say much, just stood on the porch awkwardly while she loaded the trunk. She didn't even try to hold our son. Just kissed his forehead and whispered, I'll come back for you. I didn't respond. The day after, I met with a lawyer. She was sharp, efficient, and when I showed her the messages, the audio, the timestamps, she nodded slowly. You've got a strong case for primary custody. That's all I needed to hear. I filed immediately. Grounds: neglect, emotional instability, and willful deceit. I included photos of her out partying while I stayed home with our son, the evidence of her affair, and Jenna's written statement. The lawyer took care of the rest. Sierra blew up my phone once she was served. Sierra, are you serious right now? You're trying to take my son away from me. Sierra, you're punishing me for something that wasn't even serious. Sierra, you're not even thinking about how this affects him. I didn't reply. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. A week later, she posted on Instagram a sad selfie with the caption, trying to stay strong. Even mothers deserve grace. The comments were all sympathy. No one knew the truth. I didn't correct them. I didn't need to. Word got around on its own. Jess and Liana stopped texting her. Jenna shared her story in a private Facebook group, and suddenly Sierra's name was mud in the same circles she used to flaunt. The ones who called her a supermom just a month earlier now called her reckless, fake, and worse. Meanwhile, my parents stepped in. I'll take the baby in the mornings, my mom said, carrying in a bag of groceries like she'd been waiting for this moment. You work. We'll handle the rest. They moved into the guest room. My dad handled bottle washes. My mom read him to sleep. For the first time in a long while, the house was calm. I set up a little routine. Worked from home from 8 to 4, cooked dinner around 6, bedtime by 8. Nothing fancy, just quiet. Predictable. Safe. Sierra tried to fight the custody petition at first. She claimed I manipulated her, made her feel trapped, twisted her words. But the evidence said otherwise. Her lawyer quit a month later. She stopped showing up to mediation. Eventually, she messaged me. Sierra, I'm staying with my cousin for now. I need space. Don't freeze me out. I didn't freeze her out, but I didn't invite her back in, either. That life, the one where I bent over backward to keep things together while she chipped away at the foundation, was over. Now it was just me and my son, and the peace that came with finally putting myself first. It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where everything just felt still. The baby was in his high chair, squishing banana slices in his fists, laughing at nothing in particular. I was sipping cold coffee, half distracted by an email from work, when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw her. Sierra. She looked nothing like the girl who used to spend hours picking out outfits just to go grocery shopping. Her hair was unwashed, pulled into a sagging ponytail. No makeup. Eyes puffy. She held a small paper bag and stood there like she didn't know whether to ring the bell again or run. I opened the door. Hey, she said softly. Can I see him? I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure if she still remembered the shape of the place. Her eyes landed on the baby, and for a second, they lit up. Hey, bug, she whispered, kneeling next to the high chair. You got so big. He stared at her, confused, then went back to playing with his food. She smiled, but it faded fast. I didn't come to cause trouble, she said. I miss him. I miss you too. I leaned against the counter. You've been gone almost 3 months. I know. She looked down. I didn't know how to face you after everything. I kept hoping you'd reach out. I had nothing left to say. She nodded slowly. I deserve that. The silence between us stretched long and uncomfortable. I've been staying with my cousin, she said finally. Trying to get my stuff together. I'm in therapy now. Looking for work. Just trying to get my head right. I hope you do. She looked up, surprised. Really? Yeah. Not for me. For him. She nodded, swallowing hard. I thought maybe, someday, you and I could, she trailed off. I shook my head gently. No. Her face fell. You lied. Over and over. And then you let me clean up the mess while you partied. You didn't just cheat on me, Sierra. You abandoned both of us. I didn't mean to. You did it anyway. She didn't argue. Just stared at the floor. I'm not trying to keep him from you, I said. You want to be in his life? Fine. But it's going to be on my terms. Supervised. Stable. No more lies. She looked like she wanted to push back, but instead she just nodded. I understand. She kissed our son's head one last time. I'm sorry, she whispered. Then she left. I stood in the doorway for a while, watching her walk away. Then I turned back inside, picked up my son, and kissed the top of his head. We're going to be okay, I said quietly. Better than okay. And for the first time, I really believed it.